My name is Jessica Bellamy and I am the writer of Bat Eyes. Bat Eyes is the story of a boy called Adam and a girl called Bat Eyes that meet and have a brief encounter while young that at the time neither of them really realise its significance until later in life when different circumstances end up making them hark back and remember that actually they experienced something quite significant. So it's a pretty small story just between two people that looks at larger themes of love and regret and also the way in which time passes and can change us, but also we can still stay quite the same as we were when we were younger. The film Bat Eyes started out as a monologue for stage called Little Love. This was a monologue that I wrote when attending National Studio at ATYP at Bundanon. What it was inspired by was a few things. The first was a song that I was obsessed with when I was 16 called Bound to Ramble by the John Butler Trio, which mentions a line about walking blindly and I think must have stuck in my head as the idea of what we see, what we don't, what we're blind to. The other was a beautiful poem called When You Are Old by WB Yeats, which is a poem that I also discovered when I was a teenager and that just really spoke to me and really affected me, and I thought it was the sort of poem that a lot of young women would read and think, oh, I'm not the only person who feels that way.
How many loved your moments of glad grace and loved your beauty with a love false or true? But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you, loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly, how love fled and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face among a crowd of stars.
So I really wanted to bring in the ideas of regret, of love that's not reciprocated, and of just feeling that you might be alone in the world, and poetry being a way that you can read something that just grabs you by the heart and you realise, actually I'm not, there's someone else who feels the same way that I do. So there was a monologue then written by the end of the National Studio called Little Love, which then became included in a showcase at ATYP called Tell It Like It Isn't. And then from there I got a call from Dan Pritchard at ATYP asking if I wanted to develop it with the collaboration of a director, Damien Power, into a short film, which we then called Bat Eyes. Working with Damien Power was a really exciting experience. He's a young filmmaker who really knows what he's doing, and it was so inspiring to work with someone who could just give you directions without explicitly saying change this, but just help you to define what your story was about and how through film you could really get to the bones of that story.
Adam?
Yeah?
I wish you could see. It's so beautiful.
Beauty is something we associate with sight, but then what happens if you are blind and you can't actually physically see what's beautiful? What are the other ways that we experience beauty? And then the one way that we really focused on was through the power of language and poetry in particular, being a way to evoke worlds, imaginary ones that you create in your own mind, and how that becomes a sort of solace and inspiration into everyday life. It was great to see the amount of people involved in making a film when, as an independent theatre maker, I've often just had to grab different roles and, stage manage or produce or direct in a real fly-by-night sort of way. But these were people who were trained in order to hold the heavy and expensive machines and do the job right. And as a result, the films ended up looking so professional and being cut beautifully, gorgeous soundtrack, cinematography, everything, because it was a team of really dedicated professionals.
Dream of the soft look your eyes had once, and of their shadows deep. That's where it's beautiful.
We got to work with two excellent young actors, Mia and Ben, playing Bat Eyes and Adam, respectively. It was a real joy to work with them. They were young, but they are very smart and very instinctive actors. They both found things in the characters that I had maybe thought about but not necessarily decided on or committed to paper, and really just found a truth in their relationship with each other in this weird kind of fraught, undefined, tense but also sort of loving relationship that is created in the story of Bat Eyes. Someone like Yeats writes about ancient mythology and current history of his time, but you don't necessarily have to get all of that to get the feeling of what he's trying to say. There are lines, there are moments that as a reader just you get and you think, I'm not alone in this world, someone else feels these things as well. And I hope that people watching it have a similar experience, that they will hear the truth of what this poem is saying, which is a general ode to love and relationships and history, and from there they'll take it into their own lives. And it's great to see that people have been doing that by watching it and sharing it and getting it out there into the world.